Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class, Brit Milah edition. Breakfast in the Class today, and the learning for this entire week is dedicated by the Torah Center founders, Michael and Joseph Gad and families, dedicated in loving memory of their father, Naftali ben Leah ben Nisan Gad. Also dedicated as Refuah Shlema for Chana Bat Sema Fega and Eliyahu Shimon Mem Mazal Fortuné. Also dedicated, thank you Rabbi Fari and the Safra community for making us feel so welcome last week during our stay in New York City. Best Pega and Pevand Natanzi. It's so wonderful to have people come and join us who are listeners and then come to the class in person. It's always very special. We were happy to have you. Breakfast in the Class today is also in its upgraded and very deluxe form in honor of the Brit Milah of their son, sponsored by David Lanyado, dedicated in honor of his wife Adi, and in honor and celebration of the Brit Milah of their son, Siman Tov, Mazal Tov, and Mabruk. Finally, the week of Kobu was sponsored by David Yash in honor of you and your substantial capacity to do good today and every day. The pasuk says, "Vayedaber Elokim el Moshe, vayomer elav ani Amonai." And Elokim, Hashem spoke to Moshe, and he said to him, "I am God." It's an interesting conversation that they're having, because if Hashem spoke to me, maybe I would think I was in the loony bin. Okay, the guy would be Shlomo. I'll be like, "Ariel, is that you? Hey, Shai, who's calling my name?" I wouldn't expect it to be Hashem that's speaking to me. But Moshe has already had a very long conversation with Hashem. He's not all of the sudden going crazy. He doesn't need that voice to identify itself. So why is God saying, "Psst, Moshe, it's me, Hashem"? What is happening in this pasuk? Our Chachamim Rashi already brings the Midrash. A fascinating Midrash. The Midrash says as follows. Amar Moshe, right? This was the first thing I ever read in the Torah before my bar mitzvah. My father taught me this. Right? Why did you send me? Moshe says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I went to Paro. Paro made it worse. Not only did they need to produce the quota of bricks, now they need to produce the same quota of bricks, but without us bringing them any of the straw to be able to grind into bricks. So they made the job now take longer, and they kept the number the same. So Moshe says, "Why did you send me? Since I went to Paro, it only got worse." Umeaz bati el Paro ledaber b'shmecha hurrah la'am hazeh. Right? It only got worse since I went to him. What have you done to me? Why did you send me to Paro? The Rashi quotes a Midrash on this pasuk, and he says, Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God said, Chaval al da'avdin v'lo mishtakchin. Different ways of explaining what those words mean. Chaval al da'avdin, woe. Chaval means it's a shame. Shame about the fact, al da'avdin, those that are lost, that are no longer here. V'lo mishtakchin. Two ways of explaining that word. One way is lo mishtakchin is that they are not present, right? They're not here. Ishtakach b'hadeh means he showed up, he was next to him. Lo mishtakchin, they're not here. Another pirush is lo mishtakchin. They're gone, but we can never forget them because they were unique. Like mishtakach means should be forgotten. But either pshat, Hashem was saying, "Wow, I miss the avot. I miss Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Yesh li lehitonen al mitat avot." Hashem says, I miss them. I could complain about the fact that they're gone. Harbe pa'amim nigleti aleim, many times I appeared to them. Be'el Shakai, I came to them with the name El Shakai. Ve'lo amru li ma shemecha. They never asked me, what's your name? Ve'ata amarta, and you said, ma shemo, ma omar lehem. What should I say to the people, what's your name? Ve'gam akimoti, I also kept my brit. Ukishibikesh Avraham likbor et Sarah. When Avraham Avinu came to bury Sarah, after I promised him that he would inherit the whole of Eretz Israel. So all this land, who's it belong to? Him. Hazit, the guy can't even bury, he doesn't even have a plot of land 6 feet by 2 feet to bury his wife. He didn't complain. Ad shekana b'damim merubim, he had to pay a heavy price. V'chen b'Yitzchak, and also with Yitzchak. By the way, on that note, if anyone would like to purchase a plot in the Syrian Chelka, there's a Chelka in Har HaZetim they now acquired more and more plots. That was, years ago, that was unobtainable. Now they have more plots in Eretz Israel. If anyone would like to buy a plot, it's also supposed to be a big segula and a zechut for arichut yamim v'shanim, for many long years of life, to buy a burial plot. I think there's two reasons why it's a segula, to live a long life. Maybe Rabbi Graneman will tell us the segula. Rabbi, I don't know, you ever heard? I have two pshatim. One pshat is, because the minute you buy an umbrella, it stops raining. Right? So you buy a kever, now you're not going to hide, because now you have the kever. The second you bought it, you're not going to be able to use it. Of course, that's a joke. One idea is because the Mishnah and Avot says that a person who wants to stay away from sin, what should he do? He should think about the fact that he's going to pass away. That's going to keep him honest. So the fact that a person is engaged in the idea of buying a kever means that what's in front of him? The day of his death. He's thinking about the fact that one day he's no longer going to be here. A person like that doesn't do stupid things. They don't make frivolous mistakes. They don't follow the desires of their heart as much because they are focused on the fact that one day there's going to be a din v'cheshbon. That's one of the reasons why to buy a kever is sigula la'arichut yamim. The second reason is, I believe, is that there's nothing that humbles a person more than the fact that they know that one day they're no longer going to be here. And that as well, when a person has humility, when they're humble, the Gemara says that when a person acts that way, when they're ma'avirin on their midotav, because they're not arrogant people. So in Shamayim also, whenever it comes to judge them, we just say, look, the guy, whenever something happens to him, he just always tells it, you go first. No, fadal, you. He's never demanding what's coming to him. So in Shamayim also, there's a weaker din on this person because they want to treat him with rahamim. Having said that, let's come back over here. Avraham Avinu doesn't have the ability to bury his own wife in the land that he's supposed to own the whole thing. And yet do we hear one question from Avraham Avinu? Not one question. Yitzchak, iriru alav ala beirot asher chafar. He dug the wells that his father had dug. And everything he's digging, what happens? They come, they say they're not yours. This belongs to ours. This is an occupied well territory. V'chen lemor, v'chen lemor. V'Yaakov also same thing. He buys the portion of land lintota olo in order to pitch his tent, and he was promised again the land from Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. They didn't ask any questions. They didn't wonder. They didn't say, God, what's going on over here? How come this is happening? And you said, Lama hareota la'amazeh. They didn't ask questions. You ask questions. I wish I had the avot. That's why the parasha begins, Vaera, and I appeared to your forefathers. You're asking me these questions. When I appeared to them, they didn't have questions. I wish I had the avot back, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, I saw beautiful, brought down in the Sefer Oel Moshe. He says in the name of Darchei Musar, he says we're comparing apples to oranges. We're comparing apples to Intel. They're nothing to do with one another. These are two different things, two different creations. Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were not complaining. They were not asking from God. They were not demanding something different. Why? Because it came to their own personal needs. So Avraham says about his own personal need, it's okay. I don't mind. I'll pay for the kever. Yitzchak, I don't mind fighting with these people about the be'er. Yaakov, I don't mind paying for the land to pitch my tent. But Moshe Rabbeinu was not complaining for himself. He's saying, Hashem, you told me to go and redeem the Jewish people. I went to Paro, I spoke, and now it's worse. Not for me, for them. What is Moshe Rabbeinu as a shepherd of Am Yisrael? We sing all the time. Ro'eh ne'emano Moshe Rosh Bnei Yisrael. What does that mean? He is a faithful shepherd. He takes care of his sheep. By the way, let me take the question one step further. Why does God appoint Moshe? Remember we spoke last week about the fact that Moshe took good care of even the individual sheep in his flock. Hashem says, you're such a good shepherd on Yitro's sheep. I want you to watch my Son Kodashim, my holy sheep, my flock. So what's Moshe doing? He's being a good shepherd. He's making sure that the people that were entrusted to his care are taken care of. So it's true he's complaining to God. I want to share with you something amazing. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu complains last week. He says to God, why are you sending me? Shelach na biyad tishlach. Send in the hands of tishlach, the one that you send. Two pshatim in Rashi. Rashi brings one pshat. Hu shlach na biyad tishlach. Send in the hands of the person that you always send in. There's already a Navi in the community. My older brother, Aaron. Why you want to make me the Navi? Why do you want to make me the Shaliach? Make him the guy. Shlach na biyad tishlach. But God says, it's not Aaron, it's you. Why is it Moshe and not Aaron? And I saw a beautiful idea. The Torah tells us that when Aaron loses his children, when Aaron's children pass away tragically, on the 8th day of the inauguration of the Mishkan, they pass away. And what happens when they pass away? If you remember, it says the pasuk, Vayidom Aharon, and Aharon is silent. And we count that as an amazing attribute for Aaron HaKohen. In fact, he's even rewarded for the fact that he keeps quiet, he keeps shtum. That's what our Chazal tell us. Why? What did he get because of that? Nityachda imo hadibur. HaKadosh Baruch Hu spoke directly also to Aaron, not to Moshe to tell to Aaron. Nityachda imo hadibur. So what are we seeing over here? We're seeing the idea, Vayidom Aaron, that Aaron was silenced. Mabruk, Mazal Tov, congratulations, Avi Aben. Hazaku Baruch. So my friends, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was saying to Moshe Rabbeinu back then, beautiful pshat, I can't have Aharon be the one that takes out the Jewish people, that leads the Jewish people. Because look what happens when there's a judgment against his family members. Vayidom Aharon. Aaron accepts. Moshe, I need someone that when I say, Heref mimeni, after the Egel, step aside, Va'achale otam karaga, I'm going to destroy the Jewish people. What is the leader going to do? He's not going to listen. He's not going to say Vayidom Moshe. He's going to stand up in front of God and say, Mecheni na mesifecha shekatafta. Hashem, you forgive the Jews, otherwise erase me. God wanted someone who was going to stand up for the Jews. He picked Moshe, Mecheni na, and now forgive the Jewish people, V'im ayin, and if not, he wants someone who's going to complain, who's going to fight back. He doesn't want Vayidom Moshe. If Moshe would have been quiet at that moment, the entire Am Yisrael would have been destroyed. So why is he upset at Moshe Rabbeinu over here now? When it gets worse for the Jewish people, what should Moshe Rabbeinu do? Shouldn't he say something? Shouldn't he, right? You want him to not ask questions like the Avot. My friends, I saw a beautiful answer. He said that the point over here was not that Moshe spoke up for the Jews. It was not that Moshe said, it needs to get better. That's not the point. At Har Sinai, when they sinned with the Egel, what did Moshe say? He said, please Hashem, forgive their sin. And if not, take my zechuyot. Mecheni na mesifrecha. Erase me from the book that you wrote. But over here, he said something different. And let's read again the words of the Midrash at the end. The Midrash says, they did not wonder about my ways, question my ways. Ve'ata amarta, and you said, Lama hare'ota. It's not that Moshe said, please Hashem, save the Jews. Please Hashem, you told me you were going to save the Jews. Please Hashem, save the Jews from Egypt or wipe me out from your book. That's okay. It's the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu called God's ways Ra. He called Hashem's decision, Hashem's allowing of the deterioration of the situation to be called Hare'ota. You can't say that God's ways are not good. Because as we know, Kol ma de'avid rachmana letav avid. Everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, He does for the best. And Moshe said, Lama hare'ota. On that says the pasuk, Look at Avraham. Look at Yitzchak. Look at Yaakov. They had something bad happen to them. They didn't say, Lama hareota. You promised me the land of Israel. Where is it? I can't even bury my wife, Bar Minan. My friends, according to this, we understand that there's a very different lesson that's being drawn out over here. And maybe perhaps we understand why God is speaking so harshly to Moshe. I wish we had the avot back around. That's what you're going to tell Moshe Rabbeinu? That's how you chastise Moshe? The answer is that God was telling Moshe Rabbeinu, you're a leader, not in the time of Shlomo HaMelech, where everybody has their land, everybody has their field, everybody has their children around their table. You're not living in the good times. You're living right now, you're walking into one of the worst times in the history of Am Yisrael. During the slavery of the Jewish people, they're not yet free. You can't speak that way. As their leader, you can't look at something difficult and say, Lama hareota. It's your job to be able to teach them. Kol ma David Rachmana letav avid. Everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing, He's doing only for the best. In the Shabbat afternoon class, I shared a little while ago a beautiful, beautiful conversation that happens between the Chochmat Shlomo and the Shulchan Aruch. It's not a real conversation, but it is a conversation that they have in Deot. The Shulchan Aruch says that a person must say, Kol ma David Rachmana letav avid. A person has to say, everything is for the best. Says the Chochmat Shlomo, yes, but not that way. He doesn't mean that. What he means is that you should say, Gam zu l'tova. All this is, everything is for the best. The same thing. Says the Shomer Emunim something unreal. He says those two things are not the same thing. And that was what the Chochmat Shlomo was pointing out. He was saying the Shulchan Aruch, when he said that, he didn't mean say that sentence. He meant really you should say Gam zu l'tova. What's the difference between them? Says the Shomer Emunim something incredible. Kol ma David Rachmana letav avid means that everything that happens in this life happens, and ultimately it will be for the good. And really right now I have something that's terrible, and it's horrible, it's the worst ever, and you know what? In the end, something good will come from this. This was terrible, but really, in the end, this is going to be justified. This is going to do good for me. Says the Chochmat Shlomo, that's not what we want a Jew to be able to reach. The level we want a Jew to be able to reach is where they could say, Gam zu l'tova. It's not that this is bad, but good will come from bad. Rather, to be able to look at something which is terrible, which is difficult, which is painful, and say, Gam zu, even this, l'tova, is for the best. My friends, that is a very different level of emunah. That is a very different level of living with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But I want to draw an amazing point that he makes that I thought was so beautiful from the Alter from Kelm. He quotes. Listen to this. The pasuk says, "Lachen emor lebnei Yisrael ve'otzeti etchem mitachat tzivlot Mitzrayim." God tells Moshe. Who does he tell Moshe to speak to first? Go talk to the Jews. Tell them, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Ve'otzeti ve'itzalti ve'ga'alti ve'lakachti. Tell the Jews I'm going to do all this stuff. Now, after that, go to Paro. You want the Jews to believe that you're going to do something? Hashem, I have a much better idea. Don't go to the Jews. Go to Paro, get her done, get the job done, and when the job's done, then you come to the Jews and you say, well, you know that whole thing with the Shabbat off? I did that. That was me. Right? You know, then you go and you make your campaign speech. We slashed unemployment 22%. Right, by the way, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's stump speech in Egypt was that they raised unemployment. I don't know if you realize that. Hashem was like, guys, I promise I'm going to raise unemployment, because they were slaves. Either way, the point is, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu should have went directly to Paro. Why does he go to the Jews first and then go to Paro? Says the Alter from Kelm, and a mind-blowing idea. He says most people think that a person's emunah comes from when they witness God's ways, God's miracles in this world. But actually, says the Alter from Kelm, they have it exactly backwards. It's not that emunah, faith, comes from miracles, but rather Nisim, miracles, come from faith. Why did God tell Moshe Rabbeinu, go tell the Jews? Go tell them, ve'otzeti, v'itzalti, v'ga'alti, v'lakachti. Because what is the price you pay for miracles? How do you acquire, deserve, bring a miracle into this world? By having faith in its occurrence, that it will happen. The emunah opens a space, creates a vessel for the beracha of the miracle to land. If you don't have the emunah, you can't deserve the miracle. There's nowhere for the miracle to rest. It's like HaKadosh Baruch Hu pouring all this water down on the earth, right? And no one bothered to open up a reservoir to plant any seeds. Our emunah is the planting of seeds that when the rain comes down, it produces something. So therefore God says to Moshe, go to the Jews, tell them I'm coming. Pakod yifkod Hashem etchem mizeh. Let them know, in their emunah will cause Lishuatecha kiviti amonai. I thought to myself, maybe that's the pshat in the pasuk. Kaveh el amonai, hazak ve'ametz libecha, ve'kaveh el amonai. Chachamim want to know, why does it say twice? I think perhaps, maybe an answer to that is a very different answer than most people think. First we say kaveh el amonai. First we say HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Have faith in God. Hope to God. Hazak ve'ametz libecha. Strengthen your heart. V'kaveh el amonai. And then have faith in Hashem. These two faiths are two different faiths. One is before the miracle occurs, and one is after the miracle occurs. The first faith is the faith that brought Chazak ve'ametz libecha. Kaveh el amonai. Hazak ve'ametz libecha. That doesn't mean be courageous, be strong, separate to the faith. When you had that faith, you brought down miracles. You brought down berachot. That's what strengthened your heart. Now that you've had the miracle, v'kaveh el amonai. And now, says the pasuk, have faith again. Why do you need to tell me to have faith after the miracle happens? My friends, you know why? When you have no miracles, and when you have no shot, who do you point to? Who do you ask? Who do you blame? You can't turn to Hashem and you say, Hashem, save me. But my friends, the second you have beracha, what happens? Now we already say, God, thank you very much. I got it from here. Says the pasuk, you brought about those miracles. V'kaveh el amonai. Now continue with your faith. That's what the altar of Kelm is teaching us. That faith brings nisim. And that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe to go to the Jewish people first. In fact, tragically, one of the elements of the lacking in the fulfillment of these promises of God is that the pasuk says, "Velo sham'u el Moshe mikotze ruach u'me'avodah kasha." One of the elements, perhaps, of why they didn't merit the veheveti that I'm going to take you to Eretz Israel at that time is because of this. My friends, I want to end by saying, if you're willing, if you're waiting, if you're desiring, if you're wishing for nisim and niflaot, maybe instead of wishing so hard, you should believe that they're coming, that act as if they're already here. And if, my friends, if you do that, then you will actually draw them down and not just wait for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to decide, so to speak, to send them. Moshe Rabbeinu, you're going to lead the Jewish people. Don't say Lama Hareota. Let them understand that every single thing that happens to them in this life is really the very best thing that can happen to them. And if it could be better, it would be. Baruch Adonai Le'olam.